think about that as you continue to evolve into the very best version of yourself. Make no mistake that enjoying life and experiencing life is really the goal, and the more detail you can see in that, the better the experience will be, but you know what it is, you gotta look out into the future and create that experience. You gotta create the plan, the pathway, and the milestones to get to that experience. And if you want to experience that in the ultra present, then you gotta give it all you got to make sure it happens.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 395. Hope you're awesome, as always. Do you know what? Today's episode is pretty awesome. I said awesome twice already, but it is awesome. That's 3 times. Do you know why? Because if you don't know Rob Dyrdek, right? I've been a fan of Rob for a long time. And if you don't know Rob, you might know him from the show Ridiculousness on MTV. And probably Rob and Big in the Fantasy Factory. Ringing a bell, you know what I mean? But people think he's a presenter. he is a presenter, but he's also on his way to becoming a billionaire. He's a business Jedi. He really is a business Jedi. And I'm not sure. I'm sure I have over the years put an episode out about Rob before, because you know what I do? I take awesome people. Well, this is over the past couple of years anyway. I used to do solos, used to do lots of interviews, used to do read articles out, and over the last year, maybe 2, what I've done is find awesome people, grab some awesome clips. That's 5 awesomes already. Grab some badass clips and break them down for people. So it's not just my knowledge coming over and my skills. It's giving my perspective on someone else's already existing talent. You know what I mean? And there's so many amazing people out in the world. Why would I just make it about me? Because it's not about me. It's about you. And it's about you getting what you want in life, right? And ultimately, what do we want? Doesn't matter what business you're building. Doesn't matter what you're doing as an entrepreneur, you want the same thing. Ultimately, we just all want freedom. That's it. Freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of stress, freedom of to enjoy our life. And the thing is about this, going back to Rob, he is on his way to become a billionaire. What he does is he finds entrepreneurs who are building a badass business, whatever stage, and then what he does is he helps them scale. That's it. And so his podcast is becoming my favorite, especially over the past maybe like 6 months. He hasn't done it for that long, maybe 18 months, but he's really dialed in to the mindset side of business. Rob always did, right? He's big into manifestation. He has a vision board at home. He literally visualizes. He puts his hand on and visualizes every day. And he says this is the key elements that create his success. Yet, it always makes me laugh because everyone focuses on the skill set. Now, you've got to have awesome skill set, but you could write the same piece of sales copy, and if you're not feeling it, nothing happens. But you write another bit of sales copy and you're in a good mindset, right? We'll use that word. I don't have to, but it is kind of the name of the podcast. And then what happens? It just blows up, right? It attracts. It's like a magnet. Well, that's the same thing with our lives. It's definitely the same thing with our business. It's the same thing, whatever funnel you're using. I'll build a funnel, it'll work. No, it won't. It might, but it probably won't because of the frequency, energy, or who you were when you wrote that, right? Sounds a bit woo-woo? kind of is a bit woo-woo, but it's all right. We can go the neuroscience way. We can go wherever you want, right? But let's go a little woo-woo, because a little bit of woo-woo, Rob calls it magic, combined with logic, that's what creates incredibleness, right? I was going to say awesome, but hey, I think I've said it enough. It creates incredibleness. It really does, if that's even a word. And what's wild is some of the secret sources that I do, besides the systems, the neuro-linguistic programming, the combine it with neuroscience, basically the high performance, right? I do something, my own systems is called neuro-visual conditioning, right? We're conditioning the brain and nervous system to respond in blue oceans or the unknown. So if you were a fighter working from a gym, right? You being badass in the gym, then getting under the bright lights, probably most people don't perform, right? But so we condition the brain and nervous system to respond under that new environment, right? Well, that's the same with business, scaling, all the rest of it. That's what I do. That's what I've done for 15 years or 20 years altogether with myself, but 15 years working with peak performance. And the truth behind it all is what Rob said was a pinnacle move in his life, or a pinnacle shift in his life, was when he did hypnosis. He went to a hypnotist. The hypnotist installed the future of his success, and guess what? That was integrated into his brain, and that's what created massive change. And that's one of my superpowers, is literally doing hypnosis on people. People don't realize that. Yeah, I've done hypnosis for 15 years, and I'm a pretty badass rock star at it. I really am. And that's some of the secret sauce. So what today's episode's about is he's not talking about the systematization of his life and business. And by the way, that's a major thing with Rob. Every minute of his day is basically utilized in every capacity. He's running all these businesses, all of these companies, yet he's never missed any important date with his family, anything, because that's prioritized, it's systematized, it's automated in his life. And that's a major thing with Rob. But the other major thing is meditation, deep visualization, the law of attraction, right? Using all of these things that other people might go, yeah, what's the point in that, mate? We just build. And yeah, I get it. But there's two areas of life that we have to focus on. There is, if you're a digital entrepreneur, you know this more than anyone. If you're not on your game, whatever that means to you, your business is in dire straits. It goes to shit every time, right? But if you're on fire, whatever that means to you, right? Feeling good, happy, enjoying the ride, slowing down, and we'll get to being present, which is what today's episode's about, then guess what? It doesn't really matter. Everything just starts to synchronize together, and it just happens, right? And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Because I look back on my own life, you know what I mean? I was a top performer when I was young in 2 different countries in investment real estate. So I was a sales trainer. I used to have set up departments of cold calling, work with CEOs. Then I was putting a project together to build a resort in Fiji at 27. Went through bankruptcy, nervous breakdown after my business partner stole all of my money. Then moved to LA and was working with entrepreneurs, athletes, world champions, royalty, Hollywood actors, all of this. And I look back on my life and it's epic. I'm free. I can live wherever I want. I do whatever I want, sure. But I think I missed out, literally missed out on so much of it because I wasn't as present as I should be. In fact, I probably wasn't present for quite a few years. And it's a shame, you know what I mean? It's a shame because there's so many beautiful experiences that I went through that I wasn't present in. And you know what I mean? It was always thinking about the future or remembering the past and always wanting that next thing. And the truth is, it's like life is happening to you right here and now. It is. And you might be even listening to this doing something else. So you haven't even fully integrated what I've just said. But for those of you did, then understand that this is the moment, you listening to me, and the sound of my voice sitting where you're sitting or doing what you're doing means that we can do something together. It means that we're going on a journey together. You know what I mean? And so what this episode is really about is, especially as I say, over the past year, probably a year, Rob's got real deep into meditation and very specific visualization. And one of these latest things, what this episode was really talking about, is the ability to be ultra present. Not present, not in the moment, but ultra present, as he calls it. Now, ultimately, that's probably absolutely 100% living in the moment, but not many of us can do that on a day-to-day basis. And what he shows in this episode, and it's pretty badass, I'm going to let it play quite a bit because it's just awesome. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure Rob would like me sharing his podcast and sharing his insights and wisdom. And I've followed him for a long time now. And actually saw him once outside of a club. He was in a car in the passenger seat. He was a bit wasted, but we were in the same club. And then, his cousin was driving the car. That's when I was living in LA. And back to this anyway. So think about this in your own life. Are you constantly thinking about what's next? Are you worried about tomorrow? Are you worried about next year and month and money and bills? And are you all the minutiae that you have to do inside of your business, running the team, scaling it? You've got the ads, you've got the marketing, you know what I mean? You've got the sales side, you've got actually delivering the product or service, that whatever it is. You've got all of these different platforms that you have to brand correctly, right? And put content out. You've got to make sure everything's converting correctly. And that's before we're even scaling anything, right? Because who I really love to work with is anyone that's doing 250,000 a year all the way up to whatever you want to do, like a couple of 100 million. And it's all the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got the skill set. I'm not teaching you the business things. I'm expanding you inside of your role, heading you towards an exit strategy, but I'm really making you the ultimate version of you so you can expand with your business, right? And that sounds, well, what does that really mean, Andy? Well, come and have a chat with me. Do you know what I mean? I've got 2 places open right now for coaching, but really I'm focused on the Unfair Advantage Academy. But if you want to work with me privately, I'm always open for the right person. And so head over to andymurphy.online and fill an application form in and hit me up. And if we can work together for 3 months or 6 months, then hey, I might be open. I'd love to. The Unfair Advantage Academy, that's a different beast. That's working with digital entrepreneurs who are heading towards freedom, or exit strategies, or they've already got their business dialed in. But what they're after is a community. What they're after is to make sure their brain and their peak performance is optimized as they expand into the next level of their business. Or you've got stuck and you want to get back that fire again, that alphaness, not ego, right? That alphaness or that mojo, whatever you want to call it. That's what I love to work with. So the Unfair Advantage Academy is just... it's badass, man, and you should definitely come and check that out. And you can head over to the unfairadvantage.online or head over to andymurphy.online or just message me, join the Facebook group, do something. Links are all in the show notes. Anyway, jumping back to Rob. So today's episode is all about how to become ultra present. We're going to jump into his wisdom, and that's it. So make sure you're hitting the show notes up. Make sure that you're heading over to unfairadvantage.online or you're heading over to andymurphy.online or you're joining the Facebook group. Notes, where are they? In the show notes. Go and take a look. I know you're going to love them. But make sure you're connecting with me somewhere. And then let's jump in and go and hang out with Rob. And I'll see you at the end of the show.
You can truly experience life's fullest potential when you develop the skill of being ultra present, not focusing on the moment, but stepping back and feeling every single thing about that moment. That is what it means to be ultra present, and it is the ultimate human experience. It's interesting, it's interesting. It is fun. It is joyful. I recently saw an interesting quote about, the idea of like um, living in a state of joy is really your goal rather than trying to be happy. Which I just believe in at the highest level. And again, philosophically, you've got to design a life, understand all of the parts and systems that make up your life, and then continually get better and better at operating them, so that you can stay in that perpetual place of joy. And instead of, looking at joy and happiness as some sort of outcome, that harmonious, high quality life that I preach is that ongoing, everyday goal of having your present experience be this amazing, purposefully designed moment in time that you intended to live and experience by design, right? Like that is the entire core of my overall philosophy. And today I'm talking about this like idea of ultra present, and I kind of call it ultra present, as almost like one step deeper into being present, I've shared in the past, my philosophy of the idea of going from the present experience to the future creation on sort of an ongoing basis, a future present mastery, if you will.
Okay, crew, let me jump in there. Loving Rob already? Gotta love Rob, right? And something he's talking about there is future present mastery. Let me describe how I teach that, because it's very important. And obviously Rob's a pretty masterful at this, but let me share with that. So different ways we can explain the future and presence. Understand, did he mention the past? Did he mention the past? No, actually, he talks about in other interviews and episodes that he has a kind of like amnesia of anything that's happened in the past. He doesn't remember it, you know what I mean? He goes, it probably would be helpful so I could get some lessons, but I literally don't remember the past. I just think about the future and I live in the moment. And that's the key element, right? Because we can definitely, well, it'd be nice to remember the good things in the past. Don't get me wrong. We're not talking about that, though. We're talking about life and business mastery in a different way. But the future is you should be playing in the future, right? You should be playing in the future in your imagination. Dreaming and creating imagery of what really truly lights you up, playing with possibilities. Because the truth is, possibilities are how we select what really is in alignment with us. It's like a horse with blinkers on, right? Those things on the side of the head, right? They can only see what's in front of them. That's the point in those blinkers. Now, you probably shouldn't have blinkers or be doing that with a horse, but I get it. What it means is that they can only focus on what's in front of them, so they don't get distracted, right? That's the key word. You can get distracted, but once we've designed or played with possibilities, then we can align with that and put those blinkers back on, so we can just keep driving forwards into that future vision, right? Because it's designed the way we want it to be. But what most people do is just allow, which is a different concept again, but just see what happens. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not saying anything's right or wrong, but there's nothing wrong with that. But what would happen if we could direct the flow, right? The flow of energy, the flow of focus, the flow of our life to actually hit a destination? Always go back to sports and athletes. If someone's getting ready for a race, they need to know what the hell the outcome is, or they're just going to start running left or right or doing something else. No, you got to know where that finish line is, right? So, but then if you say you are a track star and you don't know where the outcome is, you don't know where that finish line is, you don't know how fast they go, you don't know how slow to go, you don't know how to pace yourself, right? And so once you know where that outcome is or that finish line, then guess what? Is that athlete then just focused on the outcome? No, they're living in the moment. They're right there present. Because if they're not, they can't adapt to what's going on in their life right now, or that situation, or change the rhythm of their step if something happens, right? So that's what you need to be doing with life. Get clear on what that is in the future. Make sure it's in alignment with you. Set the steps that you're going to achieve towards it. Build the team that you're attracting to, that's going to help you achieve it. And then being in the moment as much as you can, so you can pivot, you can adjust, you can really take action to get towards that, because we don't know what's going to happen. Did you know COVID was going to happen? Do you know an illness or a sickness, or someone might leave the business, or Facebook's awesome algorithm might suddenly change again, right? Then no, we don't. So we have to learn, be able to pivot, and we can only pivot if we're not so attached to the future. So Rob's whole thing here is being future present. Make sense? Awesome. Let's get back to Rob.
In order to continually create a better future experience in a perpetual sort of ongoing basis. But this is really more about, thinking about how to experience the world in a more vibrant and more deeper way, right? And I never really thought about this concept even at all until I read the book The Greatest Secret, and The Greatest Secret is the same author who wrote The Secret, which is essentially the law of attraction, and in general, it's this idea of like understanding that awareness is everything. That's sort of the idea of the greatest secret is shifting your sort of overall being to just awareness of feeling in everything around you, rather than trying to be in the state of thinking about everything that is around you, right? That's sort of the concept of the book. And again, for me, it's who we are as individuals, who we are, and depending on what state of development or level that we are at in life, and when we read or hear something, how it affects us or how we can apply it to our lives. The same with anyone that listens to this show. Ultimately, as I've said in the past, I just want you to get something that you connect with, that you can add to your overall way of life to make it better. And that is what happens to me all the time with different books. It's just one or two things that like, bam, like, okay, now I can see how that makes sense in my philosophy and how I look at life, and how, how all these different parts of my life connect together. And this is an interesting one.
Just jumping in there, crew. So the book he's talking about there, The Great Secret, is by Rhonda Byrne, Byrne, Brian, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? It's a good book. The movie got a lot of bad press after it got launched, because people really just thought they could sit in their living room and manifest a Ferrari. So they were very disappointed that they couldn't. I think there's a little bit more technique of evolution of who we are, and we got to put business in place and all the rest of it that to happen. But at the ultimate form, if we were like the highest level monk, we could probably manifest that into reality if we did that. But most of the population isn't quite there. So it got a lot of hassle. It got a lot of abuse. But if you've never watched the film's a little cheesy, but it's pretty good. But the book's pretty good. It's really good, to be honest. But it makes me laugh, actually. She took a couple of titles from a couple of different things, and there's nothing wrong with that. The Greatest Secret, I instantly put into my head was a book by Earl Nightingale called The Greatest Discovery. Right, The Greatest Discovery. It's actually the subtitle is The Strangest Secret. So interesting, right? Also, I know that she was probably inspired by the most classic book ever in personal development, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, where he talks about the law of attraction as he calls it, the secret. So I know that's where she got it from. I don't think anyone's put those two things together, but you know now, right? Yeah, know now. But either way, it's all awesome stuff. A little bit cheesy, but at the fundamental roots of everything, if you want to look at quantum physics, if you want to look at the filter system in the brain connected to neurology, at the ultimate purest form, this is what it is. That manifestation is that. You could call it anything, right? You could call it many different names, but if you're a digital entrepreneur, you know that there's a frequency to this wild shit, man. And if you're on, you're on. If you're off, you're off. Either way, things magnetize to who you are, right? Or what you're being. If you're way off track of life, if you're partying too much, if you're doing stupid stuff, then that's going to last for a while. But what's going to happen is the business and everything else in your life is going to start like magnetizing just chaos to it. But if you're in a beautiful place, life is simple, clean, and you're on fire, then you know it's going to magnetize to you all the good stuff. It's just how it is, man. I've tested this to the near point of death for 20 years. And when I say to the near point of death, trust me, when I was young, I'd push things to the limit with life and business. And it's just how it works. It's just how it works.
For me, because I never really thought about it, right? Like I never really thought about the importance of the present experience as the outcome of your life design, your intention, everything about why you developed and created plans or goals or anything to have a better future. It's so that you can really feel and experience the present experience the way that you want to experience it, and have the type of joy on an ongoing basis that you want from a happy life, and but this is like a step deeper into it, right? Like, and here's a simple way that it's described in the book for you to think about is like, we're like, when we're going from thing to thing, even when we're being present, we tend to like spend so much energy focusing on the experience or a part of the experience rather than sort of the whole, and how they explain for you to do a simple exercise to understand it is like when you just like stare and look at your hand, and then look back and look up, and then look at every single thing in the entire room. In the difference of your awareness, when you can begin to see every single thing, and then begin to like hear everything, smell everything, like sense everything, that is like where this higher level of awareness exists that we seldom like ever get to. And to me, I like to refer to it as like ultra present. And it is when you are intentionally stopping yourself and really trying to feel, way beyond just like experiencing the moment, but feel every single aspect of what is happening around you, to you, and what you can see in your entire awareness, right? And man, it is just something for me that it's this deep amplification of your present reality, and in these bigger moments in life, you tend to kind of do it automatically. For me, I talked a little bit about when I got attacked by a shark, when I went to the Bahamas and put on the chain suit for Fantasy Factory to support the Wild Grinders toy launch in Walmart, when I'm out here doing that fully integrated multi-platform marketing, tied to a ridiculous stunt, um, of how important I just kept telling myself, feel this, experience this, understand this, and it's so vivid in my mind, and I the same thing when I got married. I just kept telling myself, feel this, look at everybody, look around, look at the sky, look at the building, look at the grass, like look at everything. And then when my children were born, look at this, feel like I like even everything about my children's birth is so vivid to me because I didn't just allow the moment and the experience to be pass me by, but I slowed down to really feel the entire experience. Those memories are embedded in me in a much more deeper way. And it's not, it's twofold. Obviously, these are big milestones, or in the case of getting attacked by a shark, it's just a wild stunt that you are never going to do twice. That you are only going to do that one time and add it to the highlight reel. But, for these, getting married and the birth of your children, these things make sense. But after I, really started thinking about this idea of, what the value of, shifting your attention to awareness, rather than shifting it to this thinking state, but just feeling versus thinking. I just really began to look at all aspects of my life and experience, and continually try to drop down into that feeling all the time, because it's hard to do in everyday life, because for the most part you're moving from thing to thing, and even in bigger opportunities and different sort of things that you're thinking about, or your mind share is a part of. So by the time you get to experience something that is something you created, a lot of times you're bouncing in and out of a lot of different thoughts in that experience. And for me, I just have slowly began to get better and better at trying to go a layer deeper and be ultra present. Really trying to, as I'm, walking with my kids in the neighborhood, like, man, I will just think to myself, like, okay, like they are, look at them, and look at this neighborhood, and look at the trees, and feel the wind, and look at the grass and the cars, and the like stepping back and seeing everything, and like really feeling like what is happening, rather than just walking along thinking about something else, right? That is an example of pushing yourself to be, deeply present with purpose, rather than um sort of doing it by trying to do the best you can to, be in the moment if someone's talking to you. I think for the most part, like when we think about being present and like our expectations of it's like, you know, we think about it from this lens, at least I do, of like, hey, you're spending time with your wife or your kids, but are you really there? You know what I mean? Like, you're at work, but are you really there? You know what I mean? Like, that's this, like, you got to be more present sort of um way that I think feels way more like you have to be working, right? Like, like, try to be um focused on what your kids are saying, or the conversation you're having with your wife, rather than thinking about something else, right? And to me, like, of course, there's a ton of value in that, right? And again, how do you become more present? Well, you have a more balanced mind, and ultimately, the time that you've created to spend with your significant others or other people that it's important for you to be more present with, that it is done in a way that allows you to show up there with more energy, with more intent, and more focus in order to be in that state. But the step beyond that is then experiencing life through feeling the presence on an ongoing daily basis, and I do think it's easier to do for bigger moments. Being concerned with the outcome, or anything beyond that, I got to live it and experience it and embed it in me in a much more richer, more dynamic way.
So, Crew, let me jump in there. So, I love what he's talking about, right? Because when we are taught you've got to be present, now that means we're taking a step back, right? It means we're becoming not disassociated, but more associated, right? Disassociated means that we are, if we look at it from an NLP aspect and we look at the actual structure of a memory, a disassociated means like we are watching it as if we are seeing ourselves or the scene on like a movie screen. So we're sitting in the crowd, we're watching it on a movie screen, right? Associated means that we are seeing it through our own eyes. Now, what he's talking about, Mr. Rob, is the next level. And what that means, we are associated. So we're seeing it through our own eyes, but we are seeing it at a much more detailed level. But then there's a little contrast to that. What he's really talking about is something what I call expanded awareness, right? So that's being so focused on what's happening in that moment, but also having peripheral vision of what is happening around you. Does that make sense? It's called expanded awareness. So it's we could talk about what I teach it as a samurai technique, and we teach it for all stage and business meetings and stuff. But expanded awareness means that we are so focused on what is right in front of us at a microscopic level, but we are also so aware of what's to the left and the right and behind us even. And that's fully expanded. So what he's talking about is that should be effortless. It should be a journey to be in that expanded awareness at every moment of our life. Is that easy? No, that's way not easy. But it doesn't matter. That's the ultimate goal. Life's not easy, right? Business is far from easy. But we're on a journey, right? With everything, we're on a journey to get better and more efficient. And it's the same with what he's talking about with awareness. There was a story there which I cut out because it's quite a long story, and you can go and listen to Rob's podcast for the story. But he was talking about an experience with his daughter and his wife, and then he could miss that, but he wasn't. He was so expanded awareness or present or associated that he then could take every moment in. And just think about that. Think about living like that. It's a game changer, because the other side, what I love about he's talked about was, or spoke about, probably is more good England, right? Good English. But what he spoke about then was presence shouldn't be like going to work. You know what I mean? I've got to be present now. No, it should be a way of being. That's a different whole mentality, right? Different way of everything. If we can be in that awareness all the time, it means that we are probably, we were looking at this, then we'd be in a theta brainwave, and what that would mean is that our time perception would actually slow down. And because our time perception would slow down because we're in an altered brainwave, what would happen is that there would be more aware of what is actually happening, and then we'd remember more of the moment, right? I love what he spoke about when he was getting married. He was telling himself to prefrontal cortex, right? He was telling himself that to take this in. So what that would mean is to engage all of his senses. Because often what we say you got to be present, often it can just be the visual component that we focus on, right? But it does all of our senses, olfactory, gustatory, our audio, right? Our visual, our taste, all of those things are our senses. And if we're on psychedelics, we have a lot more senses, right? But the truth behind it is that we should be engaging all of our senses all of the time and all of our experiences always, right? That's the ultimate. I'm not saying to get there, maybe in a few different lives, but that's the mission.
And, for me, it was my intent the whole time when I got there, because now I do it all the time, throughout my entire life. And it's not necessarily about a big event like that. It is about, sometimes it'll just be me, sitting at a bus stop, being in a meeting, even sometimes being on a Zoom call and feeling the entire room. And you're never not overwhelmed with sort of gratitude and sort of peace for the experience that you get to live through in your life when you practice being ultra present. When you allow yourself to pull away from fully focused and out wider and experience the whole of your human experience, there is a sense of peace that comes along with it, a sense of gratitude and awe of the life that you get to live, man. And for the book, The Greatest Secret, they really, refer to that as like, hey, this is the ultimate way to live a truly joyful life and true happiness. And but easier said than done to live on a nonstop basis, because you still got to lock in and focus to create your plans, to create a better future, to execute, to do so many different things that you get to that are part of the human experience and the present that you are currently experiencing based off how you designed it. Not everything is meant for you to be fully present in. And certainly not everything is meant to go a deeper layer and be ultra present in it. But man, if you can add it to just another thing that you think about and another way that you want to experience life. And so when you do end up in moments and do have the free mind share to go one level deeper and see the world in a wider, more aware way, it's going to make that experience that much more vivid and rich and amazing. And you will feel gratitude because you can't help it. I'm telling you, just go out in your front yard and look at everything. Just look at it all. Look at it all. Look at the trees and look at the bark and the way it's all designed and how nature works, and look at the houses and how they're really look at it, stand out and feel it. It's man, we live in this incredible world. It's you can't help but feel that when you go wide and stop focusing and see the whole. And that is, a very special aspect of being ultra present. And when you can really layer that into your life experience, and as you design your life and time that leads you towards present experiences that are really built around enjoying and really feeling. And then you add, how do I go one level wider and see this whole thing and soak this whole thing in? It will be something that you do on an ongoing basis forever. It really changed the way that I look at what it means to be present and what it means to experience just about anything. And man, I just do it in every single aspect of life, from kids' soccer games to business meetings to looking at my car and looking at every single aspect of the car and where it's sitting and where I'm at. Like, it's just, it is endless how this can be something that you really enjoy doing and enhances your life in the human experience.
There you go, crew. The end of episode 395 with Mr. Rob Dyrdek. Make sure that you're going to check his podcast out. It's pretty badass. And speaking of badass, if you're building a digital brand and you're scaling right now, heading towards freedom and exit strategy, and you know that the thing that's stopping it from exploding is you, then we need to have a chat. Come and have a chat. Make sure that you're heading over to andymurphy.online or you're heading over to unfairadvantage.online. You can grab some expert, badass free tools to help you on your journey, and come and check out what we've got going on. The Academy could be really for you to hit that next level in 2023. Hit the show notes up. Come and find me in the Facebook group. Come and find me on LinkedIn. Come and find me somewhere. And yeah, until the next time, keep kicking ass. Much love, and I will see you on the next episode. Until then, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.
Just